So I got into IIM Bangalore, but if you want to know what preparation I did, zero.
Were the exams still called CAT at that time?
First case of a small business which came to me was actually a textile trader. Actually, I came from middle class background, born brought up in Chawl. Cracked the IIT entrance exam in those days and came in the top 15. They told him your IMBA background is useless for us.
What was the salary when you got your first job from campus?
That was the most stupid job I ever did.
You would have been one of the first few entrepreneurs from IIM Bangalore.
But my main job was to sell the idea to the Indian industry.
Big companies have a consultant like you, so they are not investing in startups anymore.
You just learn to adjust to everything in life.
Hi, welcome everyone. So we have a treat for our viewers today. We have someone from first batch of IMB who is going to tell us a lot of stories that people like us who were in we graduated in the year 2000 and people who are graduating in the year 2025 will find it very hard to relate to. And I almost feel I'm going to ask the future director of IIM Bangalore, Saurav Mukherjee, to make this a required hearing for every student who comes to IIM Bangalore. So we are keeping this as history forever. So welcome Srini, and thank you for accepting our invitation to come to this episode. I know it's very late for you, and we really appreciate that we are able to talk to someone who is one generation above us, and there are people now one generation below us. So they'll also be able to see what the first IMB looked like. And most importantly, it will tell them that if you keep doing the work, this is what ends up happening. That in 45 years, you're able to create a world-class institution. And where you started from and where you end up. So with that as the preamble, I want to start with paint me the picture of how did you prepare for your IIM Bangalore entrance exams? And I'm sure it must be very different today than it was 45, 50 years ago. But still, we'd like to know from you, how did you prepare, how competitive it was, and did you sweat like the kids of today like to sweat?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm literally an oldie. I was when I was asked to be part of this podcast. I was wondering at the age of 75 why anybody should be interested in somebody like me at this age, because my own children are not willing to listen to me who are in their mid 40s. So why would the next generation listen? But then the girl who introduced me to your batch, she's from our alumni, Rinku. She did the last episode. So she explained to me, sir, you share with us a lot of insight, which you don't even realize is so useful to us. So it's a good idea if you can share it in this particular forum. Then I reluctantly agreed, because in my life I have never been interviewed like this. So I don't know whether I will be able to really do justice to this discussion, but I'll try my best. But my whole approach will be, I'm just going to be very honest about what I did in my life. Okay. So you started with a specific question, I'll respond to that. For that, you have to also understand some background about me. So actually, I came from a typical middle class background in Bombay, brought up in a chawl, where 9 families shared. Each family had about 4, 5 uh, people, and we had 2 toilets, and a lot of difficulty. And we are next to a railway station, so I had a very challenging school days. In spite of that, because there's a lot of disturbance, a lot of people work, and in spite of that, I managed to study well in school and cracked the IIT entrance exam in those days and came in the top 50 in the country and top 15 in IIT Bombay. And then I got into IIT Bombay. 5 years I was reasonably top student. And I really didn't bother to prepare for any of these entrance exam for management course. I was actually looking for a design job. But then when I got my first job in Bombay, I realized that there's no future for a real design engineer in India, and I could not afford to migrate to other countries. So I said, let me try out, write any exams. All this management seems to be good. So I wrote the exams. So if you want to know the preparation, it was zero. Just I walked in.
Oh my
We
God.
never had.
Oh
We
my
never,
God. Srini, suddenly everybody in today's generation wants to have
No,
been born 50 years ago
only
because now
IIT
the
I
preparation
prepared,
is 6 months long.
and that too we went for classes for 3 months towards the end of the year, just before the IIT entrance exam called Agarwal class. Otherwise, we are just preparing using that, some guidebooks where they are giving question papers for IIT. But IIT was a good preparation, and I was capable of learning on my own. So I learned quite a lot of things. Managed to crack very well the IIT exam. That was a tough call, but when it came to IIM, no.
So Shrini, just to
Hmm.
put it in perspective, the IIT exam you gave when?
60,
1966,
68, 68.
67? Is that right?
I
68 you
joined
gave the
IIT.
IIT
By the
exam.
time
Okay.
IIT was 10 years old, I was from the 10th batch. So some kind of a track was there for IITs. In the case of IIM
Hmm.
Ahmedabad and Calcutta, they had some kind of a background. I did try for them also. IIM Bangalore just was announced
Hmm.
when I was working. So I just decided to apply for everything. So I got into IIM Bangalore. But if you want to know what preparation I did, zero for all the exams. I just walked in and just wrote the test papers and then did the interviews and then got selected.
And was the exam like it is today, like multiple choice and you
No,
just mark the answer?
no.
So what was the exam back
See,
then, 50
even
years ago?
IIT entrance exam was never a multiple choice. It
Okay.
was a descriptive, tough problem solving exams. In fact, it was very complex in terms of both physics, maths, and chemistry. You not
Right.
only need to know the funda, but you ought to also adapt it to the problem the way it was presented. And you
Right.
have to use what you call analytical method of documenting your thinking before you can answer. So it required a different way of preparation actually. Maths and all you could prepare very easily, but when it came to physics and chemistry, you
Hmm.
have to make a lot of assumptions and based on the way the problem is defined, it was not even defined very precisely. It was a story given to you, and then you have to arrive at a solution.
Wow.
So it was very, very, the qualitative thinking was very highly needed, and it
So
was not
even in the
based on.
1960s,
Hmm,
IIT exams were like very much intellectual, and as you said, there was
absolutely
not too
high
much
quality,
preparation.
high
And
quality.
Agarwal classes, were they like correspondence or were they
No,
actual
no,
physical
actual
classes?
classes,
Wow.
and the best teachers in the city were teaching us. And English was one of the subject we had to do well. And I came from a non-English medium school, so that was a very important subject. If you don't get good marks, you won't get the rank there also. So I managed to really do very well. I got back my money from Agarwal classes. 150 rupees I paid. He gave
Hmm.
it back for the top students, so I got it back like that.
Wow.
Bombay, IIT Bombay. I did my electrical engineering with electronics, telecom.
So electrical engineering, IIT Bombay, that means you were ranked top 100 in India?
I wanted to be in Bombay, and my parents were there in Bombay, and I wanted to do electronics. And then those days there was no separate subject as electronics. We had only 5 branches in those days. For IIT, I did prepare, but it was part of my preparation for first year science. I prepared for IIT from then onwards, not from school days. And Agarwal class 3 months was like a booster where we learned the tricks of how to quickly do it. That's about all.
Got it. Got it. Srini, I have to share one thing with you. Is I think my dad might be a few batches senior to you, not from Bombay, but he's from IIT Delhi. And the reason I thought remembered this is because you said uh, electrical with electronics. That's exactly the subject he did in the 60s. It was called EE in IIT Delhi. EE. Yes, that's right. It was the precursor to what's currently called computer science because EE became computer science when computers came later in IIT Delhi.
If you really look at the course structure, we had only 5 branches. Okay, mechanical, electrical, civil, chemical, and aeronautical. So the electrical engineering, when you take, they give you two options: go for power or go for electronics. So those who went for power did very little of electronics. Those who did electronics, they were given the choice of learning, not choice, compulsory to learn communication theory, computers, and also certain solid state physics and various digital electronics, all these things.
Okay. So Srini, you have just made everybody very jealous by the idea that you didn't have to study for your entrance exams. Were the exams still called CAT at that time?
No, no, no. We had three separate exams in those days. For each IIM, they'll advertise, and we had to apply and then go through the process.
So IIM had a separate exam, Calcutta had a separate exam, and Bangalore was, there were only three IIM. Bangalore was starting.
Yes. So Bangalore started late. In fact, IIM Ahmedabad and Calcutta finished, and after that was over, and they finished the admissions and all, and IIM Bangalore came with their tests and all. So it was delayed. So by the time we started the course, it was October.
Okay, so Srini, I want to give, so everybody is already very angry, right, by this time that, oh my God, he went into an IIM Bangalore without having to even prepare for the exam. I want to, but you said something which is very interesting that you used to live in a chawl in Bombay, where there were nine families, three or four people in each family with two bathrooms. Can you tell us a little bit more about your family? Because by the end of the show, people will realize that if you just keep putting one step in front of the other, where do you reach, right? So, to give people that perspective, can you please describe to us what did your life look like before you got into IIT?
See, growing up in Bombay particularly is a different aspect of life altogether. As a kid, first of all, I lived in. We had a building complex, three buildings in a one compound. Each building had about 27 tenements. A tenement is simply like a box-like room, 240 square feet, which is divided by partition into three parts, in which the last part is the balcony. The middle portion is some kind of a kitchen, come small mori, and a small mori and a place to sit and eat. And the front part is that's the a room where you can receive guests and all. And there's a common corridor and nine houses in each floor. At the end of that, there is a common toilet and bathroom. The bathroom we had inside the house is to take care of taking care of our hand wash and all. Taking bath and toilet, we have to go out. And 45 people are running in the morning. So the shift, 4 o'clock in the morning, the ladies will go and use the toilets because they had to do it before the men start. And then the older men who have to start to go to work, they will. So everybody has to stand in a queue. And then if anybody takes more than 2 3 minutes, the knock will come on the door. So you have to learn to do it fast. And I was one of those guys who was always very late in the bathroom. When I was growing up, apart from this kind of a background, in my family we were a very typical South Indian Brahmin family. But in that building, literally we had families from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. I had a Kashmiri family, I had a Bengali family, I had a Oriya family, I had a UP family, I had a Guju family. There were 3 4 Maharashtrian family. We had 3 4 Tamilian family, Kerala family, Karnataka family. So what happened is there are three building complex like that. No, so we had about close to about what 27 54 plus another about 30 40 about 80 families living in one compound. So most of us didn't have space inside the house. So we come home only to eat and sleep. Otherwise, we were on the building playing around or go to the terrace. And our in those days, our relatives used to come home to stay. So they'll be given food inside the house, and all of us will be sleeping on the passage or go out and eat. It was so interesting. But most difficult part was the noise level because those days the radio had just come, no ordinary AM radio, and every family had one radio, and they'll put it loudly on. And in that condition, I had to concentrate and
Yes,
study, and I still managed to study and come first
right.
to the class throughout my school career.
That's a fabulous story. Srini, in fact, one thought came to my mind when you were describing the room, that there's a place with three partitions and three areas. Nowadays, the posh word for that is a studio penthouse. It's a small studio penthouse because it's open plan.
No, no, this is not a penthouse. It is something where I'll tell you, you just learn to adjust to everything in life. We learn to adjust to human being because we lived in a community and we became multilingual. I knew at a time when I was a youngster could talk fluently Marathi, Gujarati, Tamil, English, Hindi. And I could understand all the other language spoken. Even today, I can understand all the Indian languages when they're spoken.
So I think this episode is about the stark contrast between the life in late 1960s when we were preparing for IITs and the life today. So I want to understand a little bit more. How did a Tam Bram end up in Mumbai or Bombay of those years?
Oh, that is my parents' story. That is my parents' story. If you remember, in 1920s and 30s, a lot of South Indians moved to Bombay, and because the jobs were available, they all came from the villages down south. Most of them came from Kerala. The Palghat Iyyars are the most popular in Bombay. They came from Kerala. A large number of them did come from Mangalore side, and a varied varieties of people came from rest of the Tamil Nadu side and Andhra, relatively. So my father and my mother both hail from a place called Pudukkottai. And very interestingly, are you able to hear me? Very interestingly, we are not Tamil speaking originally. We are Telugu speaking people, but 800 years back, migration, people had moved from interiors of today, what they call Andhra, to the certain places of Tamil Nadu is full of a lot of Telugu speaking people. And my father, when he finished his studies in school, he was already a married man. They got married at child, and he was part of a family of 10 children, 8 child. So by the time he got married, his father had retired, and then they were going bankrupt. His father was going bankrupt, feeding 30 families in that house. So my father had no choice but to look for a job, and somebody offered him help to come to Chennai first to work. And the man who helped him to get, and he was not educated, he did only intermediate, but he had known, everybody knew stenography, that short and typing. So my father came to Chennai to work with one company, and that man got shifted to Baroda. So he recommended my father strongly to his new employers. So my father moved to Baroda first. And then from there, 2 years later, that man moved to Bombay. So he also again recommended him strongly. So he came to Bombay. So 1930s, around 38, 30, 35, 38, my parents moved to Bombay. That time my brother also was not born, eldest brother.
So, Srini, this whole Tamil Brahmin society in Mumbai, and I also lived in Bombay for just under a decade, many years. There are some areas like Matunga where you stayed, and Chembur, and that part is filled with. But what struck me is you grew up and you were preparing for IIT in the 60s, and you were growing up then. And from my recollection, as I've studied history, is that was the time Bal Thackeray started this movement, anti-Tamil movement for the Marathi Manus and all that. So tell us a bit about how you, as a teenager, you grew up in that.
See, it was not very serious when I was a teenager. It became more serious when I was in IIT. And even in IIT, there were some characters, and I was the only Tamilian in that hostel from my batch. There were other Tamilians in other hostels, but the atmosphere in the institute was very cosmopolitan. And Bombay city itself was very cosmopolitan. So a lot of things that happened as a problem was sporadic. Like what whenever you come across, occasionally some extremely violent fellow will try to attack the moment he hears some fellows in the train talking in Tamil, that kind of thing. So what used to happen was that we learned to sort of hide ourselves by not talking in Tamil, talk only in Marathi. We all are very comfortable with Marathi. The moment you speak in Marathi, they will not do anything to you.
Very nice, very nice. So, Srini, let's move on to the next chapter. How was your life at IIM? So, we've heard how you got into IIM, but how was your life at IIM? What did IIM look like at that time? Tell us about the campus. Tell us about where you ate your food. How were the classrooms like, and so
Now
on.
you know that when the first batch started, the institute didn't have a campus. We had rented premises in the city, both for the running the classes for faculty to stay, as well as for us to stay as a hostel room. They made for hostel compulsory for outstation guy, and made it because of limited number of facility. The local guys were encouraged to stay, come from home as a day scholar. But in terms of campus, we didn't have a campus. In fact, it was rented college of. There was a college of commerce run by one institution, so they took it in. That is that Langford Road. There, one building was taken, which was a college building, and they had converted it, and they hired several buildings in the neighborhood for faculty to sit, and they used to come to the class and to run the class. Very few people, faculty stayed in the same building as our classes were held. Only the director's office, the library, and some administrative people stayed. And it was a very small group. First batch was 48 people, and we had 50 faculties. And out of that 50
Wow,
faculties,
50
50,
faculties.
yeah, 50,
That's a like the number of faculties bigger than the class
because they were
size.
building the institution, no? So they had recruited a lot of faculty for various purpose. So the people who taught us directly were hardly about 10 or 12 of them, and they were some of them were teaching somebody like us for the first time. Like they came from America, did their economics. Vinod Vaslu and Bharat Junjunwala, they are fresh from PhD from USA, came to India. They are all our age group or slightly younger than us also. But our batch was only engineers. They selected only engineers. The focus was on placing us in public sector. They tried to get them to even sponsor us when we were studying by giving us scholarship and all. And some people were sponsored by public sector and came to study with us. So what happened was we didn't have a single girl in the class, and we had only the girls who worked in the staff as the only girls, young girls, who were in the reception and the various departments. So it was so interesting that we became one big family. The faculty and the students and the staff became one big family where we used to intermingle very freely. The faculty and the staff will come visit us in the campus, in the hostel, and we'll have events organized where everybody will join. So it was one big family, and the relationship where we had with the faculty was such that we literally dictated how we will be evaluated. We told them we don't care for your marks. We want you to evaluate it based on how we are learning and contributing to our understanding. You evaluate us and give us some kind of a grade, which is not. So we had a couple of subjects only pass fail, couple of subject ABCD grade like that. And we also had what they call surprise test by some other faculty. They used to give suddenly surprise tests. Some faculty said no, we will have a structured one midterm, one semester, and our program started very late, October, right? So we had to go through the process of the semesters, which are not aligned with the other institute. So by the time the second year came, we also did a 3 months project work, which was paid for. We were sent to the individual industries and companies which agreed to hire us, and we did a project work based on a faculty guiding, and that became a only grade for that particular term. And the last term was the final term which we had to finish. So there was the summer vacation was coming because of that period. So we told them we don't care for summer vacation. We want to finish the course and get out. So we skipped the whole summer vacation the last term, and we try to finish the course by June, so that July we can get out. The other institutes had already finished the course by May, and June they were starting the new course. So you will find in our batch, the first two batches started in October. The third batch started in June. So I met in Hyderabad right now. There's a guy who joined in June, and he still remember me from the days when we were in
So,
institute
so
because
between June, there were three batches at the same
three
time.
batches and limited number of rooms. You can imagine.
So, Srini, you were a day scholar. You didn't have the hostel. Is
No,
that correct?
I was in hostel. I was from Bombay. So I went
Yes.
to Bangalore, no?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So, no, sorry, I got confused. You were in IIT Bombay, but I am Bangalore.
There it is compulsory hostel.
Right.
IIM Bangalore, they had limited rooms, so they encouraged 4 5 local guys to come from home,
Okay.
saying that you,
So
Okay.
Srini, let us get the youngsters a little bit more upset. Tell them how much was your fees.
ah, nothing. We hardly spent. I had to borrow money from the bank to study because I had no money and my parents had retired and all, and nobody was able to fund. So institute helped me to talk to one of the. They already had talked to bank, so Indian bank came forward, and I took an overall loan of 8,000 rupees to cover the cost of the 2 year fees as well as the food expenses. Out of it, I took
Okay.
actually drew only 6,000 because 2,000 rupees I earned because of that practical project work. It was in Bombay I did. So, Hindustan Petroleum, they paid me very liberal money for about 4 months. I earned about 2,000 rupees. So, I didn't draw the full 6,000. And our fees were very nominal. I mean, if I remember right, it was hardly about 1,000 rupees per semester kind of a thing. And our food
Okay.
expenses was about 200-300 rupees hostel plus food expenses. So I was spending about 350 rupees per month average. And in spite of that, we used to take off and go out and eat on weekend Saturday. One other thing that happened was we didn't have a cook and kitchen running properly. So the first batch when we started, we had appointed a cook, and we had invited all the faculty to join us for a party, saying that we are going to cook, so let us all. So all the faculty, everybody came, and the cook disappeared. So what happened? Srini, Swapan Ray, and Shekhar took charge of the kitchen
Yeah.
and cooked for 50 people, the classmates, plus the faculty, 15, 20 of them with their wives, they came. Some 70, some 80 people. We managed to
Yeah.
put together some nice food for all of them, bought some ice cream for everybody, and everybody was raving. So we told them that even if we don't do well in management, we know how to survive using our culinary skills. So that was the kind of a background we had. Hostel we had to run.
So, Srini, you told us about your life at IIM, and what we usually see is that there's one faculty who leaves a mark behind in most students' life. They can recall one faculty. So, would you like to share the story of one faculty who's left his mark behind, his or her mark behind, and how did they leave that mark behind?
Prac- practically all the faculty left a mark behind. We can't individually identify, but couple of them, and of course it is so many years, no. So only 3 or 4 of them are surviving today. The oldest who is surviving is 85, is Vijay Padaki, and Vijay Padaki taught us psychology, basically, or organizational behavior, and he's also very active in theater, and he's still in touch with us. My first batch is some kind of a, emotionally very special batch for all the faculty who taught us. So similarly, Vinod Vaslu is still alive. He's taught us economics, and Vinod Vaslu became very close personal friend rest of his life. Even today, 2 days back, he called me up and talked to me at length. His wife was also from the institute. She was a receptionist, left batch. She joined as a student, second batch, and he had married her by that time. And there are other faculty who taught us OB. They were fantastic. In fact, even today, and something unusual that used to happen. We used to have Professor Valecha, who was a, well-trained OB faculty from some American university and a very big scholar. And he made learning OB interesting by making every Thursday an event in the hostel where he will join us. And then he'll give a topic on which one of our students were asked to prepare and present, and we will have a discussion. And I can tell you that that is the kind of learning you'll never get. Like, it was something he made us understand a lot of things about OB in a very practical sense, which it was not nothing to do with classroom, huh? But basically he made us very comfortable. And even today, every one of our batchmates will swear by him as a great teacher. And all the other teachers also equally great. We had somebody called Raja Erlekar who taught us statistics. Statistics is the most boring subject, right? But he made it so interesting. Even today, I remember my statistics quite well. But if you start looking at the history of the institute, the first batch, the equations, the relationship, it goes beyond classroom. There was a lot of personal. So when we went back after 50 years, I met some of the staff members who were very close to us. They came and hugged us after 50 years. The women and the men who were working, they were youngsters, our age group, or less than that. They are in their 60s plus. So even today, they have memories of that particular first batch. So what happened? The institute memory was not there about what happened in the first 10 years when they were working on the history project. So I became a point man in collecting that information using my contact with the younger batches, from my batch, and I had connections with the subsequent batches. I made sure all of them joined in sharing information about the institute. I'll give you an interesting example. The institute had moved to the new campus in 84, 85. First 10 years they were in the old place. And 2002, 2005, around that time, they had no knowledge of what had happened to the people who had passed out from the early batches. They had no information. Absolutely zero. They started giving this distinguished alumni awards. And they were giving to whoever they were able to connect. No. Then this fellow Rakesh Godwani joined to start this alumni chapter seriously from the institute. And he sent a mail and I got it and I was the first guy to respond to him. He says, "You are the first guy to respond to me, and that too from the first batch." And from me, he discovered that K. Radhakrishnan was the chairman of ISRO. They all knew him, but he is from my batch, my classmate. They didn't know. And he was not given the first distinguished alumni award, even though he had reached. Similarly, there are two, three others who were reached chairman, managing director level in HPCL, HMT, or he was heading the compact computer in those days when it was as MD. They never knew all these things. So what I did, I started the process of connecting them about the background. So when the history project was being documented, I became a very important resource person in connecting them and collecting information and getting people to share.
Very, very interesting, Srini. Let me ask the next question. How was the placement like in when you graduated?
Yeah, as I told, we were given the option of only joining public sectors. So they had invited only public sectors. We had about 48 students. Couple of them came from a public sector, so they went back. Like one fellow came from HMT, went back. One fellow came from BEL. They told him, "Your IMBA background is useless for us. PL doesn't need marketing and other expertise." So he said, "I'm not going to come back." He went and joined some government organization dealing with promotion of textiles and all. So like that, various people. So I got a recruitment from the one of the public sectors. Some few others got into HPCL, IPCL. They were all public sectors. I said I did my project work in HPCL in the factory, so they included me also. But they selected the chap who eventually became Arun Balakrishnan, who had a chemical engineering background. Eventually, he ended up becoming the chairman, managing director, and retired, and the most successful guy. So we had people joining various public sectors, barring few people who couldn't get a job, three or four. So they joined the institute in some projects where they had some projects, so they became consultant there. Then they went and joined some academic institutions. Some fellows went abroad and did PhD and worked there. Some fellows continued here on their own. And somebody like me who went and joined a public sector, it was all campus recruitment. The people came, ICICI Bank came, like that,
They still
various
had
people
day
came.
zero, day one, or is that too far fetched in 1976?
Pardon?
So,
Repeat the question.
so nowadays they have a day zero, they have a day one.
No, nothing. When you are studying, suddenly the company will come and we are told this company has selected you people to be interviewed because of your academic background. So electronic company selected four of us. IPCL selected guys who had some background in engineering and they felt they can work in marketing. Only two companies did serious interviews was Hindustan Petroleum and ICICI. Even ICICI selected me, but by the time I had a job in this public sector, so the institute told me you can't go for a second interview. So I didn't land up in ICICI. So like that, lot of people had multiple offers also, but 90% of people got placed. In fact, I had a very unique experience of a company like HL coming and to institute in the beginning of the course to sponsor me, but they told me I had to sign a 5-year bond to work for them after 2 years. They'll underwrite my expenses for the whole course. So I said, no, I will not sign a bond for 5 years. So they said, no, unless you sign a bond, we will not take you for nothing. But otherwise, lot of other people, none of them had to sign. So this gentleman Radhakrishnan is one of the unique case where he came from ISRO background. He did this course. ISRO took him back with both hands. Recognizing his background, they put him in an area where he was doing a lot of work where they didn't have the expertise because all technical people. He had a technical background plus this managing background, and he rose up the ranks there. And he directly worked under Satish Dhawan, Abdul Kalam, and top scientists in those days, and they recognized his contribution and capability. He was then he did his PhD. He realized that he can't do he can't become chairman of ISRO unless he has a PhD. So he went and did PhD from IIT Kanpur while working in ISRO and ended up becoming. And similarly, lot of others did. Somebody like me, the few of us, after about 3-4 years, felt that we don't have much of a future. So we decided to walk out. So I'm one of those guys who became a freelance entrepreneur as a management consultant. Another friend of mine, he started doing he worked in HMT, so he left them and started developing training program for workers because he had a background. So he developed a lot of training materials and it became a big hit. He did very well. He
So,
made a lot
Srini,
of.
I want to delve into this further. So, first of all, I want to know what was your salary when you got your first job from campus?
First job, I got a stipend of 1,000 rupees for 1 year as a trainee. Then regular job as an assistant manager. The salaries were around 1,500 rupees to 2,000 in that range after first year. And I'll put it this way: when I passed out from IIT, the IAS salary was 400, and I got 550 rupees. Okay, and you paid tax on that 550 rupees.
Hmm.
So similarly, when I got my salary, 1,000 rupees was a big money in those days. 1,500 rupees was like I'm like a god in those days. But when you started living in big cities, that was just about enough to run your life. So I found it not very comfortable in big cities like Bombay and Delhi. Fortunately, I moved to Hyderabad. It was a much cheaper city, so I could manage to live reasonably comfortably with
So,
that.
Srini, we want to know from you what was your first job after IIM? What were you exactly doing? What were you
Oh,
doing
okay.
day in,
I
day
told you I
out?
joined a public sector,
Yes.
which was startup under the Department of Electronics. When we had a very serious foreign exchange limitations in the country. So electronics is one area a lot of imports were required. And in those days, nothing can be imported without getting an import license and getting all the approvals. It's a very big job. You must have read about how Narayan Swamy talked about getting a computer imported. He had to go through various approval and all. No? It was much worse in those days. In 76, 77, nothing was possible. There's no foreign exchange. If you want to travel abroad, they used to give you $8 as foreign exchange allowance, right? So this company was set up under Department of Electronics when they found that there was a possibility of doing a rupee trade from the East European companies, import and export, where the rupee trade was something which enables you to get similar equipment that was available from foreign exchange countries, Western Europe and others, similar technology. They're all brothers, right? So Germany, for example, East Germany, I could get a lot of equipment which was made in West Germany because they were earlier together. No, Poland and Hungary, lot of companies had similar technology, and they were willing to give it on rupee trade. So now the concept of importing on rupee trade was not very exciting for the Indian industry. So then the government said we'll form a corporation like state trading corporation for electronics. They call it Electronics Trade and Technology Development Corporation under the Department of Electronics as a public sector, whose mandate was to do rupee trade for imported electronic products. So in those days, picture tubes, magnetic tapes, lot of things were getting imported from these countries. Then I was put in charge of the business of dealing with the import of electronic equipments from these countries. Apart from that, we became a channelizing agency for any import being done by government organizations from any country in the world. So they channelize those imports through our organization for a small commission. So even the non rupee trade imports we could do based on the license issued to the government organizations. So NRSA company organization like that, no ISRO, all those people, they had to take our help where needed, where we will import on their behalf, we do all
So
the
did you get
costing,
to visit these
but
countries,
we'll use
Srini?
their license.
Did you get
Pardon?
to visit these countries?
No, no, no. They visited us. Those team visited us. I took them to my clients, but my main job was to sell the idea to the Indian industry. So my marketing, I was doing the marketing job of selling the concept of, buying this equipment and convincing them, why are you waiting for so long? The same equipment I'm giving you. So a lot of companies did agree, and then they gave the order to us. I managed to sell some like that, but it was not picking up the way it was expected because still the trust factor was an issue, big issue, and after sales service was a big issue, things like that. But by that time, this company itself was undergoing a lot of internal problems. It was a public sector, no, typically, and they grew, adding more people just like that, left, right. And at one point of time, the first 3 or 4 batches of management trainees, all of them came from all the 3 IIMs: IIM Calcutta, IIM Bangalore, IIM Ahmedabad, and all of them were disillusioned because they are bright fellows and they are looking for challenges, and we are doing basically a routine governmental liaison kind of job. So one by one, after that, we also signed a small bond for 3 years. So one by one, everybody started quitting, saying that we'll find our own path. So I did some work, and I started working in Delhi. They transferred me to Hyderabad, not because I had a big job. They wanted to make the Hyderabad manager have people working under him. He had nobody. So he said, look, I'm a senior man, general manager, but nobody is working under me here. So they moved about 10 of us from Delhi to Hyderabad. I mean, that kind of decisions were taken in that company. So basically, I was just trying to tell you that that was the most stupid job I ever did. But I learned quite a lot about how the government functions. I interacted with some of the top government officials in the Department of Electronics, including people like MGK Menon, and there was one Patsardi who was a big man who controlled literally policy. I met people in BRC at the top level because of this particular job. So I used to bluntly tell them that this corporation is doing absolutely a useless job, even though I represented. And I told them electronic industry will not grow so long as this Department of Electronics and the Electronic Commission exists, because they have no idea, and that's a fact. The Indian electronic industry died during that period. It never grew. Till recently, only suddenly they are waking up to very industries which are willing to come to India, but they had a very closed door mentality, license permit Raj mentality. So I realized that look, there is no future for me. So I also decided to move on. So after working there for 3 years, I was based in Hyderabad. I was traveling in the work all over. But I had my own personal issue. My wife is also a professional. She's known to me from school days, from my neighborhood, younger to me. And she was a top trained professional in speech and hearing. She studied in All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Mysore. And she was doing very well in Bombay when we got married. And I told her, I don't want to live in Bombay. So she said, okay, I will go wherever you go. And she couldn't get a job wherever we went because people are not heard of that. So literally in Bombay, in Hyderabad, she had to create that profession
Right.
from scratch. So I realized that if I take up a job with another organization, my own company was about to transfer me back to Delhi when I decided to quit. And if I join any organization, they'll keep moving me. And my wife's profession will get affected. So I decided to stay put in one city rest of my life. And we like Bombay, Hyderabad very well coming from Bombay.
So,
It is not Chawl
so,
anymore, not a Kohli
so
anymore.
you reached Hyderabad. Which year was this, Srini?
77
So
September,
77 you reached Hyderabad, and ever since you've been in Hyderabad. Is the rest of your family, are they
48
still in
years.
Bombay? Whoever siblings and cousins?
There, my wife said
Okay.
yes. Her sister is there and some cousins are there. My side, much before I came to IIM itself, my brother and all had moved out.
Okay.
My sister and younger brother were there, then they also moved out. So everybody moved to Chennai. And by the time I was very actively working in my consulting profession, practically most of the family had moved out to Chennai, except my sister and my in laws were still there. Till about 1999, my father in law was
Got
there,
it.
alive. Now, what has happened, if you ask me today, I had connection with Bombay as a family link till about 2000, middle of 2005, around that time.
Yes.
But by the time everybody had moved out, so I used to visit Bombay on any work related visits. I had assignments in Bombay and I used to visit regularly. I'll talk about it. That's all a part of my professional
Yes.
growth. But I never liked Bombay. After that first year of working in Bombay from IIT, where I had a room for
Hmm.
myself, coming back to that crowded
Hmm.
place and the suffering of commuting and
Yeah.
all, I hated Bombay. So I told myself that I will never ever go back. So I didn't take job in
So
Bombay,
first 20 years of
even
your
the offers
life
came.
you were in Bombay, Mumbai, and then you decided that this is not a city I like at
24,
all.
24. No, I liked the city till I finished IIT. I never thought I will leave Bombay at all.
Okay.
But when I worked for that 1 year in Bombay, I realized how rotten it is. It was already getting rotten. And the suburbs were coming up, that people are moving in, and the commuting issues and other issues. And there was a massive railway strike in 74 when I was working
Yes.
there. So, literally, in a lorry, I had to hop on and to go to work. Buses were on strike.
So Srini,
And
when you
we
said
never.
you just now said that suburbs were coming up. So what were the suburbs that were coming up in the 60s and 70s? I bet they are very
Yeah,
different
western
from
suburbs.
what is considered
Yeah,
as Bombay.
western suburbs were coming up to Andheri.
Right, right. So Andheri Chodo, I mean, even like right up to Kandivli and all that is considered like core Bombay now, from my understanding.
Oh, but in those days they were
Yes,
suburbs, and if you look at it from the point of the eastern
yes.
suburbs, the areas around Ghatkopar and Mulund were all coming up.
They were coming up at that time. They were not
Chembur,
even fully built like they are right now.
no,
Wow.
they are coming up. Chembur was reasonably well settled, organized in that neighborhood, so a lot of people had moved. The Sion, King Circle, Sion, Chembur belt was
Okay.
okay. Now, when it came to Sion towards Ghatkopar and beyond, it was not very well
Right.
developed. But the western suburb was developing quite well. Right up to Borivali, it was developing.
Yes.
But the people moved far away because of the connectivity and affordability, two
Yes.
considerations.
Yes.
You can't get a room. One room if you want to get, you have to give a pagudi. They call pagudi, goodwill,
Yes.
and it will be lakhs. And somebody who starts working in Bombay will not have that kind of money. Only the business people had. So typically, most of the business people are investing in those properties near where they are working. The employees used to go commute. And
Yes, yes. But this feels like a time capsule, Srini, 50 years later, how Bombay has changed. But tell us about Hyderabad. You've been there ever since you moved and probably fell in love with the city. So tell us a bit why you liked Hyderabad.
I'll put it this way: it was a one-horse town. It was like I am Bangalore. Bangalore was when we studied. We could travel everywhere in a bicycle. I literally moved around Bangalore in my bicycle, from one end of the city to another. Very comfortable, very peaceful, very laid back. But Hyderabad was worse because it was a Nawabi city compared to Bangalore. Bangalore had a fairly industrial work culture. A lot of industries were there. Hyderabad had research labs and government labs and all, and few industries. And the culture of Hyderabad was laid back, and nobody rushed you into doing anything. So when I came to Hyderabad, it was a one-horse town. But what made the difference was it was a town where I didn't know a soul when I first came. I didn't know anybody except my colleagues. But due to some my brother's connection, I got associated with some social groups, and through them I got to know other members of the society beyond my work and my profession. So I got to know people. So eventually, this round table, Rotary, and all gave me connected me to the local life, and it was a very peaceful city actually for a long time till some communal trouble started because of political reason. But it started growing very badly. So initial days, the city's growth was very haphazard, and the infrastructure was not commensurate with the kind of population coming in. So by the time I had quit my job and started on my own, and to go around, I had a one scooter with which I used to go around trying to meet people, do my work and all. And I used to get a lot of back pain because the roads used to be terrible. And I rest of my life I suffer from that back pain even today, till I bought my first car much later. So Hyderabad city was very beautiful in one sense. There are no flats. You go on a rented house, you'll get a very comfortable 2 3 room kitchen facility with a toilet and facility. So that was different from Bombay. And then people are generally very friendly. And I had one more constraint that I had married and I got my 2 children. My wife started working only, and I started doing my own business. She started working so that we could earn some money for running the house. So we had to take care of the children. So the landlord's families with whom we stayed in the same property as a tenant, they used to take care of them when we were out. And that kind of emotional experience we had, where Hyderabad became a very comfortable place. I'll put it that way. So business-wise, my practice was not much in Hyderabad. I had to run around beyond Hyderabad. But what I did a strategy
Hmm.
of focusing on small businesses which were very high, very large. So the process, I'll discuss it
Right.
later. But I like the city because it was different from Bombay. And I took a
Right.
decision, this is the
Right.
city where I can live in an independent house. So I never bought a flat.
Yeah.
Almost for first 77 I came. I built my house only in 2000, 98 to 2000. And I moved away from the
Right.
city.
So between 77, Srini, 77, you were still working. You quit your job because you wanted to stay on in Hyderabad. And then, so did you start your own thing right then when you stayed in Hyderabad?
70, 70, 70, 82, I started on my own.
Yes.
After working for ASCII, I told I joined ASCII from my
Yes.
company. And I was a member of faculty there for 1.5 years
So
in
you were,
marketing.
so you were, so if I'm not mistaken, you would have been one of the first few entrepreneurs from
One
IIM
of the first few,
Bangalore.
but there's another chap called TV who was in like HMT, I told you. He had quit the job before me.
Yes.
And he started that
Okay.
business I told you of developing training program for workers in the industry.
Right. So you were the
So
second
he
entrepreneur
used to
from
come and
your
visit me at
batch.
my ASCII. It was located in a palace. And I had a room for myself with a bathroom bigger than the house in which I was living. So he used to come and tell me, Srini, what are you doing wasting your life here? Better get out here.
Hmm.
You can do something on your own. So 4 visits is made. Fifth visit, ASCII itself convinced me that that's not a great place for me for my future. The academic institutions in management are the most rotten places. I'll bluntly say that for people who come from our kind of background. It is all right for people who did only academic study, PhD, and then they can't work anywhere else. They can go and work there. Somebody like us, no, who have hands waiting to do something with our do practical thing. Classroom teaching and
Yes.
research, all of them don't give you that kick. So I suddenly realized that I really didn't want to be an academic teaching and doing research publishing. I was doing everything by the way. In ASCII I did amazing work because there's nobody tell you what to do except the lectures that you are supposed to take. So you take 2 lectures in a
Hmm.
day, and you had nothing to do whole day. What will you do? So I did my own time spending researching, giving proposals for research and getting some funding. And I did my papers writing
Right.
based on library studies. And then I prepared special topic lectures and gave it to some industry which used to call me to teach their training program, for their marketing, sales people and all. So I developed a lot of insights about management doing that kind of work. Then I realized that there's so much of work to be done outside than work from within. And I also did some very
Hmm.
interesting program which nobody will believe had made a big difference. I asked us to run a course called Computers for Managers in 1980s,
Okay.
because those days were the mainframe
Right.
computers, no, and mini computers were just
Yes.
coming in. So one of my colleague was running this program, and he asked me to do some sessions on application of computers in business, particularly in the area of marketing. So I had a background in computers. I also had background in market research and other things. Then I also did lot of
Yes.
study of what are the other ways in which computers can be used. So I did some
Hmm.
practical research, put together and gave a lecture, and that became a big hit in
Hmm.
the course. Then I realized that, my God, what am I doing teaching here, whereas I should be actually implementing these ideas in the industry. So my whole idea of coming out was that why can't I combine my electronics technical knowledge with the management insight I
Yes.
got from the institute, and 4 years of working in industry, realizing that there are a lot of things it don't teach you in institute, but we can do using our common sense and build on it. So I started working with initially with the small businesses which were prepared to give you work,
So you were consulting for small businesses and teaching
small
them
medium
management
businesses.
skills that you've learned.
I was not teaching them,
Okay.
because first of all they had no idea what to learn, why to learn. They'll only come and tell you, I'm not able to get people to work for me. My business is growing. Can you help me? So I said, okay, recruitment karenge. But then when you recruit, that fellow, I leave him there. Next day, he leave the job and go. Because these fellows don't know how to give work also. So I had to hang around and prepare a ground for this fellow to take over and teach them how to use his fellows. Then some companies they had grown, they had no system, so they were not able to get their materials which is lying around in their factory in the store. When they want to produce, they'll be wasting time searching for it. So I used to go to there and organize their stores and put it together in a systematic way, then put together some kind of process for them how to get the items on time so that they are available for production. And around this time, the banks, they were funding small industries, and they were facing problem when they were giving more funds to the companies which are done well to help them grow. And when they are trying to grow, the company will go into difficulties. A 1 crore company will be making 30% profit, but when they became a 5 crore company, they were losing 20%. And they didn't understand what's going wrong. They had a lot of faith in the company business model, but they never understood anything about the business which they are lending, the bankers. So they used to call me for, I was in the panel of State Bank of Hyderabad. So they used to call me to do some diagnostic study or a stock audit, either to find if there is a fraud or what really caused the problem so that they can be revived. In the process, I ended up becoming close to the small units also, guiding them. At the same time, I also exposed some fraud, which was available in the documents that they were presenting to the bank, but bank had no time to study. They were busy
So
every
give
day
us an
meeting,
anecdote, Srini.
So
Can
me
you
and
give us an anecdote?
I'll give an
Yeah.
anecdote. The anecdote, I'll get plenty of anecdote. So there's one company is a company which was manufacturing cables, and it was a small cable company which was making this consumer cables. And the consumer cables were produced in a small factory where basically it involves wire drawing and using polyester coating, using extrusion and injection molding technique. And they were sold in the consumer market as a branded cable, and they were sold to the retail outlets. and the margin was almost about 30% on that cables. And the turnover of that cable was you gave 1 month credit, money used to come. And most of the raw material and all, no, you are able to get like copper and all under a quota as a small scale unit. You got a allotment given, and you have to pay upfront cash. So this fellow was maintaining money, minting money. 1 crore was a big deal. I mean, huge money he was making. Then he became ambitious. He said, "No, I can't grow in this business." The power cable business, he said, "I will grow." So he managed to get some second-hand equipment and got loans from the bank. They loaned him, and then he started supplying to electricity boards and the large buyers who buy power cables. Now, in the case of power cable, what used to happen? The earlier business, the cycle time was 30 days. In this, it used to take him 6 months to deliver, another 3 months to get the approval by the inspectors, then another 3 months to get the money, and he was working on a 15% margin. Now you understand the economics, right? He never understood that his problem was cash flow, low margin, and high, very low inventory turnover. Whereas he was used to high margin, high inventory turnover. So within first 1 week of going through his books and looking into all the details, I found out what was his real problem. So he was a Marwadi fellow. So I told him, boss, if I go and give this report to the bank, they will not believe me. But I'm going to give this report. And I also tell them that you are a revivable case, provided you refocus your business away from the cable business to go back to that fundamental area and convert these facilities into producing more of that. And in the cable business, work to somebody else who will give you upfront money, the power cable. And since he's Marwadi, I told him, you go to the bank, now they will not take decision to fund you immediately. You will go more sick. So don't wait for your bank. Your own community will fund you. 'Cause I knew, because of Bombay background, I knew the culture, how they help each other. So I told him, you just borrow, you can make money, you work like this. Then he was having a lot of waste of material in the factory. He started raising money through his connections. He came from a good Marwadi family, rich family, so he was able to raise the money. In 2 years, he turned around. He became a very good client of mine afterwards. And the bank people know, they were firing me saying that, did you get money from them to give a report like this? So I said, I challenge you to show me which aspect of the report says you have not even understood when you funded this business. So that is one good example of turnaround with my involvement from the bank side. But the another case is a first case of a small business which came to me was actually a textile trader. That was my first real assignment. A textile trader in the Bombay Secunderabad market. He was a semi wholesaler for cutout, and he was a very successful textile trader. So when I was in ASCII, I did a program for a company called Arvind Mills. They had a chemicals and dyes units, which was a very famous company, and they wanted us to do a marketing program for their indenting agents. So those people attended that program. Me and one of my colleagues went around, studied, and then did that program for 1 week. So one of the local chap from that intending agent, one day when I left my job, he went to the institute to find out where I am. When he found I'm on my own, he got my address from them and came home and told me, look, this textile trader is a good friend of mine. He's a good man. He has done very well in life, made good money very fast, but now he's suffering from big losses. And he's talking of doing a bankruptcy thing. But I feel that you can help him. Can you do something for him? I said, textile trader, shopkeeper, what do I know? He said, no, from the way you taught us, I'm convinced that you can do something for him. Okay, मैं देख लेता हूँ. So I went and sat in the shop. It was literally in the market, no. I can't even take my scooter there. I had to park it somewhere and walk. There will be small gully. And he had that one shop where everybody sitting on a gaddi. And it's a semi-wholesale, means his customers used to come from different parts of the country. I was sitting and talking to him and going through his books. Then I found out what actually went wrong. This is also a learning for me because this is not taught to you in the institute. Okay, so he was actually over trading when the business was doing very well. Because Katao was a Katao saris were very wild, no saris were very strong brand. So there was a big demand from the Mafusil areas and all. So he used to get funding for his growth from using what they call commission agents. They call them Atya. You must be familiar with the word Atyas. You are Agarwal, so you know what the Adatya means. They are commission agents. They'll give you a loan for about 1% per month kind of thing. So this fellow used to take a loan from them. He used to have a turnover in every 3 months. He used to have a turnover. He will give and sell it and collect the money in 3 months' time. So he had incurred interest of 3 months, 3%. He had a margin of 8% as a semi wholesale. So 5% straight. So his capital was 4 lakh, but his turnover was 1 crore. So the 1 crore turnover came from almost about 25 lakhs of borrowing. So he was always having borrowing more than his capital, but the business was doing very well. So he was happily growing, continuing to borrow. Then the 1983 Bombay textile mills strike took place, right? So at that time, Katao and all suffered from that problem. So they outsourced the production of their product to that Malegaon, some such place, no, power mills, and that quality was not the same. But this fellow, without understanding all those things, kept on buying like that. Now what happened when he supplied the product? Those fellows, instead of paying money, started sending back the goods, saying that this is defective. And within 1 year, he found that he is owing money to the other tiers, which has no money to pay. And he came to me saying that I'm going to sell my wild jewelry. He has a big bungalow and all. So I want to declare bankruptcy. And so I told him, hold on, boss, you appointed me just now. So give me time. I will help you. Because from what you have done, I realized that you have done basically what fundamentally we are taught not to do. But as a Marwadi, you took a risk. It's perfectly all right, but even a Marwadi won't do this. He will never overtrade as a cautious Marwadi. But you became ambitious. Usually, some Marwadis become very ambitious and they also get into trouble, right? His father, his brother, everybody is kept telling him, "Look, you are doing something wrong," and never used to listen to them. So when I said I can help you to turn around, provided you listen to me. He came and touched my feet literally. He came home and told my wife, only your husband can save my business, like that. And literally, you won't believe it. Every day, evening 6 to 8, I used to go and sit in the shop. I had some other work to do. Evening time, when his customers are finished coming and going, then I first did that audit of all his stock, sorted them out into good quality and bad quality. I told him, get rid of all the bad quality stock at whatever price you can get it and get back your money. And then tell the Adatya when he comes next time that I'm not going to borrow any more money from you. You buy only money and buy only from the money that you have. And you sell only on cash, no credit. Reduce a margin from 8% to 5%, but sell on cash. Next 1 year, I was sitting there every day, controlling what he buys, what he sells, and what he turns. And 1 year, he wiped out his deficit.
So very good. So we are hearing management consulting stories from early 1980s. With that, Srini, our episode is coming close to an end. And before we end the episode, we want to know from our first batch, someone who was on the first batch, where he expects the institute to be at its 100th batch. Because very soon, the institute will be doing the 100th batch. So where do you see the future of this institute?
Now, if you look at what is going on today, I've been in touch with the management institution along with other institutions also. Even I was visiting ISB and other places. There's a lot of shift going on in management education. So one other thing that is happening is entrepreneurship. and that is an area where the institutions don't have any background. The
Yes.
faculty who teach also don't have background in what is entrepreneurship, nor the students who can come there can learn anything unless they do what they call the incubation kind of a thing. So practically every institution has done this incubation business. But there is a lot of move away from the conventional management education based on functional teaching to more focus on how to develop enterprises from scratch as a startup. Even when you go and work in a large organization, how you can become an entrepreneur from within. That has become a very important area where they don't have faculty who have that kind of background. So they are trying to get people from the industry background to come and work there. But they have no mechanism how to employ them also in a effective way. So the real challenge for the institute is preparing for the future, which is going to be significantly technology oriented. At the same time, entrepreneurship is the only way in which they can create employment for the people. Already there's a lot of unemployment among the formally graduating engineers and MBAs, even from the IITs and IIMs. So this is where it is difficult to predict 101 first batch what it will be like. It is like soothsaying. So I will not take that thing. But the trend is going to be more and more towards understanding technology and how that needs to be adapted to the benefit of society is going to be a very important factor. And because the technology has created a world which is highly connected, so people are very similar in the connected world with similar background. Recognizing that, how are you going to develop the people to break the barriers which are coming in the societies across the world, causing the rift that we are experiencing? No, today the rift that we are experiencing is the whole world is going through a transition coming from the technology revolution is breaking conventional boundaries of people's living in communities and localities. Like my family, my parent generation broke the boundary, came out, and then we don't have any place calling as our own, right? Today, that boundaries are crossed by the new generations, and people are moving not within the country; they're moving globally. So, what is going to happen is the education system at a higher level has to understand this evolution and then start working on that. And since I'm not part of the policy making of the institute, I really don't know what they are up to in that area. But I,
No, but I think your point is very well made. That institute has to move towards embracing how do you teach where the knowledge itself is so quickly evolving that you cannot teach the knowledge itself. You have to teach how you can be a continuous learner, which is a very different skill than
and
the
it's a
knowledge
fact of
itself.
life that all of us who came out of the institute know that we learn more on the job. I didn't tell you about my journey of my full career from the small business which I started in first 10 years to the corporate world, and I made phenomenal impact there also.
So, how many
Okay,
years did you run your business, Srini?
approximately 1982 to 2009.
Wow. So that is a period of like 25 plus years.
Five, up to 82 to 92 I was with small medium.
Okay.
90 to 93 my doors got open to large
And
corporates.
did it have anything to do with the liberalization, Narsimha Rao,
Yeah, yeah,
Manmohan
yeah.
Singh?
Because of liberalization, the large corporations were losing ground.
Okay.
They were losing their business.
Right.
So what happened was initially they invited the large big consultants who charged them crores of rupees, gave the report, and the report was lying in the drawers of finance director or somebody else's drawer, and nothing happened on the ground.
Right.
So we were actually doing what they call business re-engineering projects, which I got into it accidentally because of one of my clients who read the book by Hammer and Champy,
Okay.
gave it to me and asked me to read it. And I got zapped because when I read the book, I said I'm already doing similar work in a small business because of IT,
Yes.
computer and all.
Yes.
So I said it's very easy. I will do it.
Yes.
Then I started working with him, and then I got opportunity with some other clients where I had worked, like Apollo Hospital. So during that time,
So
we
in the
met the MD
90s,
of
so,
Glaxo.
so tell me, has Apollo
92,
Hospitals been
93,
there since the 90s? Is it that?
80s.
Oh, wow.
Apollo Hospital started 80s.
But where was
The
it then?
Hyderabad upper, it was Chennai.
So it was just a single hospital. It wasn't the chain as
Then
we
they
now know
started
it.
in Hyderabad in 88.
Okay,
I got associated with them in 90
right.
as a regular consultant, helping them because they were not doing well in Hyderabad. So somebody introduced me to Apollo Hospital, that CEO, that Sangeeta Reddy, daughter of. Then I guided her in terms of how to change the way they are running the business, both from an internal management perspective as well as the way they treat the customer. Did some work and all. So she was very impressed. So re-engineering, when we wanted to take up, so she asked us to take it up in the first company which asked me to do. It was a very interesting case study where this company, that division was losing money for last 15 years, and he was about to close it down. And it was a typically engineering contract kind of business. That is, they used to make what they call power banks for the large projects. They used to quote based on certain assumption and then certain timeline and penalty clause. They never delivered on time and they always overshot on cost. So they lost money every order. So this re-engineering exercise when we did, they were able to reduce the delivery time from what days to take as 12 to 13 months to 3 months. And they were delivering ahead of time, and they found that they got surplus capacity and they started going all over the world looking for orders. So like that, I got a lot of interesting stories.
So
Okay,
you have in the
so
90s, right? Since the 90s, you became a turnaround expert for the large companies in India, even companies that are now huge, like Apollo Hospitals, but at that time were,
Apollo Hospital, that it was a small company in the Hyderabad branch.
yes,
I turned around, but I worked with very large companies. We started doldering after the liberalization, very large companies. So one of the first company, of course, that not doldering but doing very well was Glaxo, which became a landmark assignment, and it also opened the door for corporate.
yes,
But we landed that assignment because the MD was known to us. So when he met us saying that we are doing similar work, he invited us and we did a phenomenal work. And that company sent us all the group along with the consultant spouse to go off for a holiday
mm,
for a great work we did, blah blah blah. Okay. But the real challenging assignment came from companies which were doing very well, but they started doldering after the liberalization.
got it. And from 1982, Srini, to 2009, first you started with small and medium companies, then you made large companies. Tell us about your side, because I think from what I understood, you started as a one-man job in,
I had associates.
and then you
I
had,
won't be sickly. I had associates who always worked with me,
okay,
who complemented my capabilities. But we used to work on a project basis, like putting together a movie.
right.
We put together a team when the movie is announced, no? Like that, we
And
used to
did
do
you
that.
do like
My
right
model was
from the
that.
start?
Huh?
Is it like right from your first few project in the 80s, or did you start doing that later when you got the big clients?
No, no, right from the beginning, it was a personal contact.
Okay,
Even the big clients, it's very interesting. I never promoted my business. Practically everything came from word of mouth.
mm,
And I met only the CEO for getting the business.
right.
I will look for, and then that is where IIT and IIM Bangalore work.
So now I'm very curious. Did you never thought, okay, this is doing very successfully. There is a strong word of mouth that's happening. Why not set up um, like a McKinsey and Company? You could call it a Srini and
Good
Company kind
question.
of consulting firm.
Good. It's not that simple in those days
Okay.
because you have to understand the times. McKinsey and Company came and failed because of that. I got my work.
Okay.
Accenture failed because of that. I got my work. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So my business model was a boutique business model. And I am not a consultant. I am a what they call my company was called Shika Management Services.
Okay.
So I was offering a management services business as an independent consultant along with my
Right.
associates with complementary capabilities, and I was also bringing in technology support,
Okay.
especially in IT at different points of time where needed. bringing in people I knew and tell them, look, they will do the technology event, but you contract directly with them. But I'll make sure that they'll deliver.
Right.
That kind of thing. So my story is too long for your 1.5 2 hour thing,
I think we should
because
have a longer
you
episode, but for now, so if we fast
yeah,
forward, so 82 to
if you feel
2009.
like if you feel like
Hmm.
if you feel like we can break it up into two.
Hmm.
Today's episode is my early beginnings.
Yes.
The next episode can be my late experiences, which will be zapping you if I tell you the stories.
Why did you
I'm not
stop?
bluffing anything. It is real stories. I have put it in my blog. If
Okay.
you have time, go through it. The full story has been documented during the time when the COVID. I was doing nothing, so I said, let me write down all my
Yes.
experiences. And 26 chapters, blogs are there covering each of that kind of work I have
And I
done.
think what we will
But
do, our editor will ask
mm,
them to put the link here or here somewhere at the top about all your stories and your blog. So for our viewers, if we because we can't cover like a 30-year journey of Srini in 1 hour. And I recommend for everyone, I have read a few, but you should all go through that, and that is excellent management learning for all. But what I do want to cover, Srini, is 2009. Why did you stop consulting? Was it like what comes to my mind is like I've made my money, now I want to retire on my island?
no, I didn't make money. Let me honest to tell you, I was making money at that time when I was forced to retire. Retire in the sense forced to stop working.
Okay.
I had a major health problem.
Okay.
See, in the course of my work, practically Monday till Friday, I was traveling,
Right.
and I was traveling to all sort of places where assignments were coming. So I was going to Baroda, I was going to Mangalore, I was going to Delhi, Faridabad, I was going to Calcutta. So what used to happen was that I had a very delicate stomach. I'll put it that way. So I was not getting aware of it, but something was going wrong with my health internally. The whole damn thing burst in terms of gallbladder burst
Hmm.
one day suddenly when I was working actively.
Okay.
And midnight, I was rushed to the hospital in July 2008. I was having 4, 5 assignments still going on with my other
Hmm.
associates, and that was going on in three different places: Hyderabad, Chennai, and Baroda, and all. And I was in the hospital, and 24 hours later, they found that they had to cut open my stomach to find out what is wrong. That's when they found the gallbladder had burst,
Right.
and the whole stomach was filled with bile. And the gallbladder had gangrened. It was 90% gangrene. It had not yet touched the liver. So the hospital was worried that I will not come back alive from that hospital.
Hmm.
But they didn't tell me that. But they removed the gallbladder, got rid of everything, cleaned up, and they kept me in the hospital thinking 1 week later I can go back home. But I was not able to recover from that operation in 1 week. It was taking time. So 2 weeks later, they said, if you stay here, you will not recover. You go home.
Hmm.
They discharged me with all the tubes hanging.
Oh no.
And they said, you'll recover faster because at home, here hospital, we have got our own problems. And the rest of the healing process required a lot of restriction on my life for next 3 months. Before I was even allowed to drive the car and go out and eat little bit. And then a lot of restriction on what I can eat. Then I realized I can't go and take work, traveling everywhere, eating flight foods, eating all sort of food. So then I talked to my clients and my associates saying that I'm not available. I'm going to hang my boots. So 1st of April 2009, officially I closed my business. That means I closed my business account. I surrendered my service tax thing. I stopped billing in the name of my firm, and I settled all the accounts from all my clients and other people. Then subsequently, I got work, but not like consultant, but like an advisor. My old clients used to call me. Then ISB called me for some work for mentoring the entrepreneurs they are doing for women entrepreneurs. So next 5, 6 years, I was engaged sporadically. Then I had a lot of money outstanding, including the income tax department. No, so I had to get back. So I went around collecting all those money back. So at the end of 2011 12, I discovered that I got about 50 lakhs, which I can manage comfortably rest of my life. I have my own house.
Nice.
So I told my wife, I'm not going to look for another job. If some money comes up to 2015, I said I will do. After that, I'm 65. I'm not going to also even go and ask for work involving money, because my my heart doesn't give me the permission to do work for money when I'm not in a position to give real value. All my life, I gave real value, and people paid me double both the hand, much more than they would have paid just as a consultant. So I said I don't want to lose that value system. So today I'm doing a lot of pro bono help to the next generation people, but I refuse to take money, and my wife is mad at me. But I got two nice, lovely children. Because of the inflation, my 50 lakh was not big enough to run our life. So they said, "Don't worry, Daddy. You took care of us when we were young. We are here to take care of you. You don't have to reduce your standard of life." I said, "My standard of life is 2 meals a day and peace of mind. That's all. We don't have any other expenditure." So they support us, supplement of my income, which I'm able to get from my investments. They take care of the balance, which are unexpected expenses. I can't run this house.
That's lovely to hear, Srini, and that's such a fascinating story. I have one last question for you before we sign off. Now, you were mentioning that you are an electronics electrical graduate from IIT, and in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you saw close up that how the license permit Raj, you were saying that has not done any favors to India's growth in that sector. Now, we saw that even in the last 15, 20 years, except you mentioned that in the last few years, we are seeing that growth. Now, I want to pivot this question because the biggest technological change in the last 5 years that we are seeing, definitely, possibly last 10 years, is AI. And it's the same thing. Do you see India's future in AI? And do you think the government is doing enough both for entrepreneurship and from a regulatory part to spur Indian entrepreneurs in AI? Or will we just end up doing cat videos with a nice app instead of real AI that the
See,
LLMs are
basically,
making?
for that to understand the answer to that question, you should have some kind of understanding on the Indian business ethos. Okay, so I have been involved with helping incubating companies from the institutions with technology coming to the market. One of the story I have given in my blog is about Herald Logic, and even today, the Indian environment, the money is not really coming for innovation. Okay, people don't understand what we call risk blind investment on an idea. It is more like the movie industry was in the early days. When one particular idea worked, everybody simply copied it. So today in India, there is
Yes.
really no culture of investing on innovation by anybody, even the so-called angel funds, others and all. And the government is not doing anything beyond what these people are telling them to do. So I am involved with T Hub here, and T Hub is basically
Okay.
meant for innovation in AI and advanced technology. The, TM is
What is T
basically
Hub,
a
Srini?
technology hub in Telangana. It's first of its kind, and they have
Okay.
developed a building complex where they give facilities on a rental basis. You get the top world class facility for developing tech products, and you can take the chair on a monthly basis, and like that. And some people take it on an individual chair, some people take for a group, and they're all startups basically, and they give you the environment to connect with the people who are be interested in your product or interested in my investing, like that. So TM is a very big success story. So I am there as a mentor to one of the units. They in fact invited me to become a mentor. One of the alumni was heading. He said, "Somebody like you with your kind of background is the man should be talking to them." So out of the three, four companies they introduced me, one company has taken me very seriously. So they do call me, spend time. Even 2 days back, I was with them. Again, I'm going to visit them next week. I don't take money from them. They only pay for my travel expenses, taxi and all. Now there also I
Yes. Yes.
noticed that No, nobody is really funding great ideas. I came across some amazing ideas. Those fellows are telling me that even when I'm trying to sell the idea free, the fellows are not taking me seriously. So we have got a problem of trader mentality in the country. It is something which Agarwal will understand, Wix
Right.
will understand. The Marwadis and the Gujaratis,
Yes, yes, Agarwal and Marwari,
they
yes.
are
And
done.
I will remember all the digs you have done at Marwari. You did not dig,
No,
no, no,
no,
hold
they
on,
have
hold
the
on, Srini.
money. They
You
have the
did not dig
money.
at any
But
other
I have got them
businessman.
into the picture of investing in ideas like this. They always told me that show me the earnings and I will lend money but not give as a equity. And they have the money. Now the government says we have the money through the bank.
Yes,
The banks are also like that. So now who is the person who can put money from his own packet? They are the foreigners. The foreigners who are coming to India, they are not looking at Indians like the way they look at Silicon Valley or Boston. Here they are looking at service business. And historically, if you look at the IT industry, we never were a product company here. Give me one example of product company. They're all service companies.
So, Srini, where do you think? What about the Indian venture capital industry? I'm quite curious because I'm in VC, and
They are not capable of
okay,
identifying a great idea. They are looking at only ideas which are got a traction and they want to more put money when it is in a position to grow and then take over that company and run it. The kind of money that comes as an angel fund, where that fellow says, okay, I've given you $1 million, go ahead, do what you can and show me. That kind of a risk taking is not there. And I came across that problem with my own mentee in 2002. I couldn't find one single fellow willing to invest. And finally, I surveyed them based on my consulting work. I told my clients to use that product free and pay after use 3 months later. And they got money more than what SAP licenses. They are doing very well today. Only last year they got first time after 20 years some investor coming and putting some money when they showed their ability to earn money on their own. So that fellow rang me up and told me, Srini, you tried your best, but now only the money has come like this.
yes, yes, no, and sometimes it takes a long time. But I will tell you, share one example. This is a recent thing. You might have heard of it. Everyone, it's the big news. There is there's a reason that a lot of, even in abroad and in Silicon Valley, possibly definitely in Europe, that people don't invest in Indian entrepreneur business because there is a skepticism that these people are not ambitious enough to scale up. But there is also a bigger reason, is that a lot of times Indian founders, and I say this with all due respect, but because of some bad experiences, some Indian founders have not have basically taken the VC money and then not delivered. And that has been, in fact, the recent example that comes to my mind, there's this company, unicorn plus plus, maybe a decacorn, called builder.ai, which was originally called engineer.ai. I mean, they started off with saying that we will now make AI do the coding. I mean, they recently found out that actually they had Indian coders doing the coding for them, and they were putting it as an AI product. Now think about what that is. My apprehension is that is going to hurt Indian entrepreneurs who are doing real value work, because all these foreign VCs, they will say, oh, that builder AI वाला that छोड़ निकला, अभी इंडियन को हम बहुत ही skepticism से देखेंगे. And however wrong that might sound, I mean, there is a human nature that says that ये एक गलत हो गया, अब नहीं करना दोबारा.
See, that's what I'm saying. The environment traditionally never supported honest fellows. Okay.
Yes,
So what happens is fellows who are dishonest are capable of gaming any system. And this has happened not
yes,
only in the product area, it has happened even in the service area. Recently, you must have come across that the greatest fall of that education company, Kerala based fella, Baiju.
yeah, Byju's,
It's a very good example. No, they were really
yes.
riding very high. Big money was behind them, but still that fellow went down. And the latest example
Yes.
is going to be Ola. They have moved into manufacturing scooters and they are in trouble, big trouble, because they have come from a
Yes.
service organization, and without any background, he has gone into a product business. And I have worked with a scooter company in the past. I know what is involved in marketing scooters and what are the
Yes.
issues that you have to be faced. And he used this hype and then created a big thing, and that company is going to collapse very soon because of practical product failures. So now what happens is we have got a challenge in terms of creating a understanding of what is innovation, how that has to be taken up through stages. Government is willing to support innovation through what they call seed funding. Not now, donkeys years back they used to have a policy called seed funding. I don't know whether you remember, when many small scale units were encouraged to start, when that fellow could not bring his own capital, the government used to give them seed funding, and some
Hmm.
companies have grown very well using that, but many companies have not succeeded. Today there are a lot of things being talked about, but in practice the government should
Yes.
not be involved in doing all these things. It has to be driven by private
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. Government should facilitate.
And see, I mean, you're absolutely correct. If you look at Silicon Valley, KDI is in Silicon Valley. It is built on founders. It is built on venture capitals. It is not built on the US government's money.
And the people who become venture capitalists are ex-founders. It is built on the idea that founders make money and then they invest in new founders.
Exactly. See, we don't have that background. In India, still today, those fellows who are calling themselves, venture funds and all, no, they formed a network. They have still no idea how to select a right company, and they are taking a blind hit. It's like a playing three card or poker kind of thing. Honestly, understand.
So, would you say this true for all VCs, even the big name VCs in India? In India, is that, or do you see some exceptions?
See, exceptions are there in terms of success stories when it comes out. So, if you look at the history of the development of IT industry, when there was a control permit Raj, it came up because they focused on the American market, European market, American market basically, and there was no control from the government for doing anything for that market. You could import the equipment and then you are exporting services, no? And without any government involvement, that industry evolved, became so big. One day, government said, "We want to help you." They called them up. There are two industries which did very well without any role of government. One was the diamond polishing industry. Another is the IT industry. Both of them came up around the same time, 70s, 80s, 90s, right? Both the industries were called by government saying that, Please tell us, we want to help you." You know what was the answer given to them by both the industry bodies? Please keep away from us. We don't want your help.
That is the best
No, I'm
and
telling you,
biggest
this
help
is
you
a
can give
fact.
us. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
So I
I
am of the
absolutely
opinion,
agree.
having worked, I told you, I worked in a public sector which was influencing the decisions on electronic industry, and they destroyed in the process. I took a stand. Government should not be involved in taking any decisions on what industry should be doing. They should be only facilitating anybody to walk in and walk out when it comes to non-sensitive, non-security areas. Now they are opening up left, right, and center in space as well as in the defense. But what is happening there? It is not technology which is being developed here. It is screwdriver. They are importing the kits, assembling and sending it back. This was happening with PCs. They used to call it phased manufacturing program. And one of my client told me, "You prepare this report." And I would say, "I don't know how to prepare a phased manufacturing program report because I never done it." "No, no, no, you just have to put together this thing for getting the government permission." So I went to Delhi along with him and met the government fellow and asked him, "What is it you really want?" You know what was his answer? "You are a consultant, you don't even know this, Babu." So that is the problem. The country is still,
So what did he want? I still don't get it.
there is a
What
method in which you have to bluff a story how I am going to indigenize. Initially, I'll start with importing the kits. Then every year, how much percentage I will buy from local. I will do semi what you call assembly thing. I'll assemble. Then I will do only component assembly. Then I will start producing the product in India. All very bluff and arbitrary sales figures, arbitrary numbers. So I asked my client, why do you want to do all this janjat? He said, no, I want that license. Then I can invest in some of these equipment facilities, which I can't do unless that license is there. I mean, that is the worst kind of a situation I have come across. So what happened was, because I was an independent consultant, I had the capacity to tell people exactly what I thought. Even at a later stage when I was working with large corporate, I'll give you example of large corporate I have worked with. Okay, Glaxo is one of them. ITW Signode is one of them. Reddy's Dr. Reddy's Lab is one of them. Jewelry Industries, Mangalore Fertilizers, Mangalore Chemicals and Fertilizers. I got names like that, plenty of big companies. And I used to tell the MD, look, you are doing absolutely wrong decision when it came to. I used to tell my clients that you take lot of decision without understanding the area of technology. And your own internal people whom you put on the job, they are not, they are like, half blind fellows in among the blind fellows when it came to technology. So they tell something to please you, what you want to hear. So I made them reverse the decision of investments. Can you imagine? They were about to invest in a major SAP. I stopped them from putting that money. 5 crore. I told them, don't waste your money. Then I got the whole job done with my team at fraction of that cost. And that was a startup.
So Srini, you were just saying that companies and investors don't invest in these startups. I have a feeling these big companies have a consultant like you, so they are not investing in startups anymore.
I'm talking about. Basically, the problem is that earlier they went to that large companies and invested money on known thing. They always want to go for what is known. Who else has done it? Tell me. I will not take the risk. Who else has done it? So I found eventually two or two clients who are willing to risk a new technology. How I did it? I told them that you take it free. Use it for 3 months. You just pay them the expenses of installing it in your premises. They will come and spend 2 weeks. You pay them the to and fro cost and expenses for living and food. Then they will handle your the backend from their office in Bombay. Let your people start using it. This particular company, it is a very well-known French company called Saint-Gobain Inverter. They initially took it for sales and marketing area. They used it for 3 months. They said it is damn good. We want to try it for another 3 months. Then they asked, can you also parallelly put it in the procurement area? So we installed it in the procurement. Run for another 3 months free. At the end of 6 months, they said, please don't take it away. We have invited our international IT chief to come to India to discuss with you people how to contract the final price. Then I told these boys, don't open your mouth asking for any price. Let them say what they want to pay. So that fellow from America, France, who came, he spent 2 days studying the whole thing. This was in 2002. I'm talking about. Okay, and he said, whatever you fellow said, you did it in 2 weeks' time. First of all, it would have taken us 2 years to get it done, and it would have cost about 2 to 3 crores. You say that you're not charged anything for this all these days. So this boy said, yes, sir, we are not charged anything. We are hoping that you will be fair to pay something. So he said, okay, I am willing to buy license for whole of the Saint-Gobain group 500 license. And I'll pay you whatever we pay for SAP license in those days. That was the top rate. And immediately you quote for 25 license for immediate what you already installed, 50 licenses, and give me an option for adding another 450 licenses later, and I will immediately release the money. So they were expecting 4 to 5 lakhs, they got 50 lakhs.
Lovely, lovely. Srini, this is like that. There are like I'm sure you've got like about 100 other stories to share
Yes,
with us, and we will definitely Once again, to remind our viewers, Srini has a blog. We will put the link up there as well as in the description. So make sure that you go through it, because there are loads and loads of stories that Srini has, all of which are not just entertaining, but more importantly, very educational from a management perspective. Because this is what 50 years of experience in management gives you. And one last thing before we sign off for our viewers is, for those who don't already know, Srini has recently won the Distinguished Alumni Award at IIM Bangalore.
No, no,
And
no, no,
he's,
no, 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 not a distinct alumni award. I am Bangalore.
yes,
I got the award at Hyderabad Alumni Chapter as an eminent alumni.
eminent, distinguished, eminence, a slight wordplay, Srini. And Srini has been one of the original founders of the IIM Bangalore Alumni Association, and he's still an active member in the whether it's Anusmaran or any other activities that we have in the Hyderabad chapter. So if you're in Hyderabad, if you're watching it, if you're a founder, there is immense advice that Srini can give you. Leave some comments if you have any. Maybe Shini will give you some advice on your startup, because Shini, if I got this wrong, sorry, I'm volunteering on your behalf, but if I got this uh, correctly, I think you are still doing a lot of the next generation of entrepreneurs, teaching them what 50 years of management experience you have. So thank you once again, Srini. Thank you for coming on our channel, sparing nearly 2 hours of your time with us, sharing fabulous stories with our audience, with our viewers, which I'm sure they will learn a lot. But thank you so much once again, and good luck with your life and with your health, most importantly, because health is wealth. And finally, good luck with the future of advising
Srini,
the
yeah,
next
Srini,
generation of
thank you so much.
entrepreneurs.